Hello, and welcome to Broadcasting Scotland. It's Friday the 8th of April. I'm Andrew Wilson. This is Scotland at 7. This evening, I have the latest daily update from Ukraine on day 44 of the illegal Russian invasion, and then I will look at today's headlines from Scotland and around the world. The Kremlin has admitted suffering significant losses of troops since Russia launched its invasion of Ukraine, in a rare admission of how badly the war has gone so far. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has highlighted the bravery of his nation in his latest late-night national address. "Being brave is our brand," he said, while calling for bolder sanctions on Russia. A Russian airstrike on a railway near Barvinkov station in Donetsk Oblast has blocked 3 evacuation trains from leaving, according to reports. Thousands of passengers who were meant to be evacuated on the trains have been placed at the station, according to the Ukrainian media outlet Hromadske. Ukraine's Prosecutor General, Irina Benediktova, has said that 26 bodies had been found under 2 ruined buildings in Borodyanka, a town about 25 kilometers west of Bucha. She did not say if the authorities had established the causes of death, but she accused Russian troops of carrying out airstrikes on the town, which is now being searched by Ukrainian authorities after the Russian troops occupying it withdrew. Ukraine is bracing for a renewed Russian offensive on its eastern front as Russian forces withdraw from the shattered outskirts of Kyiv to regroup and intensify their attacks across the Donbass region. The Ukrainian presidential advisor, Alexei Arestovich, said the besieged southern city of Mariupol was holding out, and that he believed the Russian efforts to surround Ukrainian troops in the east would be in vain. The mayor of Mariupol, Vadim Boychenko, says that more than 100,000 people still urgently need to be evacuated from the city. Speaking on national television, he described the situation in the Russian-besieged Ukrainian port city as a humanitarian catastrophe. Zelensky called on the Greek parliament to use its influence to rescue the remaining population of Mariupol, which has had a large ethnic Greek population for centuries. The mayor of Dnipro, a city in the central eastern Ukraine, has urged women, children and elderly people to leave because fighting with Russia is expected to intensify in the eastern regions. Filatov's warnings follow similar calls by authorities in the Luhansk region east of Dnipro. German intelligence agencies have intercepted radio messages from Russian soldiers discussing the killing of civilians in Ukraine, according to reports. 2 separate communications are said to have been intercepted, in which Russian soldiers describe how they question soldiers as well as civilians and then proceed to shoot them. The Washington Post has cited an intelligence official as saying, "Soldiers fighting for Ukraine appear to shoot a Russian prisoner of war outside a village west of Kyiv in a video posted online. The footage was originally shared on the social media app Telegram, but the New York Times says it has verified the video." And the Nobel laureate editor-in-chief of the Russian newspaper Novaya Gazeta was attacked with red paint while he was on a train, he says. The investigative newspaper has suspended publishing until the end of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, after Russia's communications regulator warned them to cease their reporting. Russia has denied responsibility for airstrikes on the railway station at Kramatorsk in the eastern Ukraine. Alexander Kamyshin, representing Ukraine's railway company, said that the station was struck by 2 rockets. It is reported that at least 39 people are dead and 89 wounded, many of them seriously. The station was being used to evacuate civilians to safety. Pictures from the scene show at least 20 bodies, some in pools of blood next to their packed bags. 4 cars were also destroyed, and the remains of a rocket with "For our children" written in Russian could be seen next to the station. Pavlo Kirilenko, the Donetsk regional governor, said that they knew very well what they were aiming for and what they wanted, to sow panic and fear. They wanted to take as many civilians as possible. Commenting on the attack, President Zelensky said, Lacking the strength and courage to stand up to us on the battlefield, they are cynically destroying our civilian population. This is an evil that has no limits, and if it is not punished, it will never stop. Since the invasion of Ukraine began in February, Russia has repeatedly denied targeting civilians. Commenting on the Kramatorsk attack, Russian authorities claimed that the missile was of a type only used by Ukrainians. The UK government has been criticised for the low numbers of Ukrainian refugees who have been allowed into the country. As of yesterday, 12,500 visas had been issued under the sponsorship scheme out of 43,600 applications, according to Home Office figures. Out of 36,300 applications for family visas, 28,500 have been granted. But only about 1,200 people have so far arrived in Britain under the Homes for Ukraine scheme for those who are sponsored by UK hosts. Another 10,800 have arrived under the Ukrainian Family Scheme for those with existing family connections in the UK. The UK's Home Secretary, Priti Patel, said, "I apologise. It takes time to set up a new route." She said it was always easy to blame someone else, but security checks were not the problem when it came to the time it was taking for Ukrainian refugees to reach the UK. Individuals and organisations hoping to host Ukrainian refugees, however, have criticised the UK's insistence that refugees must first apply for visas. The chief executive of the Refugee Council, Enver Solomon, said asking refugees who are scared, exhausted and traumatised to fill out a long and complex application is unacceptable and totally out of touch with the terrifying situation that they find themselves in. Mr. Solomon added that the UK approach is out of step with the UK public and the rest of Europe, choosing control over compassion. The UK visa requirement, he argued, is not fit for purpose. The British Red Cross said that the quickest way to help refugees would be for the UK government to stop the requirement for visas, bringing Britain into line with other countries. Asked in an interview about potential hosts experiencing delays of 3 to 4 weeks, the Home Secretary said, "I'm streamlining processes. I streamlined the family scheme in less than a week, and we simplified that, and we changed the way certain checks are done." A government source said it had been a victim of the popularity of the scheme. The number of people who have arrived in the UK is less than the number of visas issued. Government sources suggest that may mean some people are applying to the UK as one of a number of options. However, because visas are issued to individuals rather than to family units, it is usually not possible to travel until everyone has received their visa, and there have been large gaps in issuing dates. The SNP leader Nicola Sturgeon today launched the party's campaign for the council elections to be held on the 5th of May. Ms Sturgeon focused on the cost of living crisis, with household bills soaring and many being forced to choose between heating and eating. The SNP's leader said earlier today, "These elections come at a time when families are facing a Tory-made cost of living crisis unlike anything most of us have seen in our lifetimes." She continued, "People are struggling to pay for their shopping and are terrified to open their bills." The Scottish Government has already brought in the Scottish Child Payment, a scheme which does not exist south of the border, and doubled it to £20 per child per week. That payment will rise to £25 per child by the end of this year, when it is expected to benefit the families of over 400,000 children. Ms Sturgeon said that the Scottish Government was already doing all that it could to ease the burden on hard-pressed families. Calling for a vote for SNP council candidates, Ms Sturgeon urged voters to send a message to Boris Johnson that Scotland has had enough of his incompetent, sleaze-ridden government. The SNP attracted complaints from the media that the press were not invited to the manifesto launch event held in the People's Pantry, a food club in Ms Sturgeon's constituency on Glasgow's south side. Ms Sturgeon later said that the venue was not suitable for a media conference and that she was not hiding from the press. She pointed out in an interview today that she was probably the most interviewed politician in Britain. Under the sea to the west of Scotland, the proposed Cambo oil field could produce up to 255 million barrels of oil over its lifetime. Following Glasgow's COP26 conference last November, the project was put on pause as Shell, one of the partners, pulled out of the scheme, saying at the time that the economic case was not strong enough. Today, we learn that the major partner in the project, Siccar Point Energy, who own the site, has been taken over by Ithaca Energy, who now want to develop Cambo, having paid £1.1 billion in the takeover. Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the resulting increase in the price of oil has led to a reassessment of the site's commercial value. Ithaca Energy said Cambo and the nearby Rosebank sites were two of the largest undeveloped and most strategically important discoveries in the UK North Sea. Alan Bruce, the chief executive of Ithaca Energy, said the development of the Cambo and Rosebank fields is a huge opportunity to not only help secure the UK's energy future for at least another quarter of a century, but also to create thousands of direct and indirect jobs in the process. Final approval for development has to come from the UK government, and they have stated their intention to bring forward a new round of licensing for North Sea oil and gas projects. This policy was announced yesterday with the release of the UK energy strategy. Greg Hands, the UK Energy Minister, said that the decision will not be made until an environmental assessment has been carried out. The UK government said its commitment to more North Sea projects recognised the importance of these fuels to the transition and to energy security. Ithaca Energy said that Cambo could, over its 25-year operational life, help to reduce the need for the import of more carbon-intensive alternatives. Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon had said previously that the project should not get the green light because concerns over climate change, and she said today that her view had not changed. Although she agreed that North Sea oil and gas are important right now, the focus should be more on renewables, and that we all know that the world has to move away from fossil fuels. At the COP26 conference, world leaders agreed to continue efforts to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees. Today, however, The Guardian quoted Joachim Marozzi from the Max Planck Institute, who explained that staying below 1.5 degrees C of global warming is currently not plausible. Based on IPCC data, the world could become between 1.4 degrees and 4.4 degrees Celsius hotter, depending on which emissions scenario we follow. COVID-related staff shortages combined with Brexit delays threaten a difficult Easter travel getaway for thousands of travellers. At Dover, the already long queues are expected to worsen as the P&O ferries remain tied up, following that company's illegal sacking of its crews last month. In recent days, attention has focused on Manchester Airport, where the chief executive, Charlie Cornish, warned of delays of up to 90 minutes at security. He said the problem was staff shortages, explaining that the airport was forced to lay off its people to cut costs during the COVID shutdown. Now that travel demand has surged once more, he said, the simple fact is that we don't currently have the number of staff we need to provide the level of service that our passengers deserve. Mr. Cornish said that the airport has not been able to recruit more staff quickly enough and that it will not be possible to open the usual number of security lanes. The airport has interviewed over 4,000 applicants in recent months, and 250 new staff should be working by early May. Some 769 flights have been cancelled by UK airlines in the last week, mainly British Airways and EasyJet, and 367 other outbound flights have been delayed for 2 hours or more. EasyJet said that they would preemptively cancel a further 50 flights a day to minimise disruption. The airline said that many crew members are sick due to COVID, affecting services at Gatwick and Luton as well as Manchester. At the port of Dover, a repeat of last weekend's gridlock is expected, while Operation Brock, dealing with post-Brexit congestion, has led to 23-mile-long tailbacks on the M20. Hauliers reported today that more than 2,000 trucks were stuck in queues. The UK government's computer systems designed to streamline the identification of trucks' cargoes has not been working properly, resulting in slow manual checks. The English Highways Agency has closed a 24-mile stretch of motorway leading up to the port of Dover to manage the traffic. This disruption drew complaints from Spain's main haulage association, Venedismer, which said the delays resembled disruption in December 2020, when France ramped up COVID checks on cross-channel traffic. Drivers have to remain trapped inside their trucks without being able to access adequate resting places or minimum hygienic and sanitary conditions, the Spanish haulage body said. The European Commission should put pressure on Britain to resolve these delays, it added. Goods trade between Britain and the European Union fell sharply in January 2021 when post-Brexit trade customs arrangements first took effect. Trade is now roughly back around pre-Brexit levels, but has lagged behind an increase in trade with countries outside the EU. The UN has reported that global food prices rose to their highest ever levels in March as a result of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Cooking oils, cereals and meat hit all-time highs, causing food commodities to cost a third more than the same time last year, according to the UN Food and Agriculture Organization. Russia's war in Ukraine has disrupted Black Sea exports of crucial commodities from a region that had been producing more than a quarter of the world's wheat exports. The war has helped push up cereal prices up 17% over the past month, with the closure of ports throttling wheat and maize exports from Ukraine. Russian exports have also been slowed by financial and shipping problems. World wheat prices soared by nearly 20% during March, while maize prices posted a similar month-on-month increase, hitting a record high along with those of barley and sorghum. The higher price quotations are particularly concerning for countries already struggling with other crises, including conflict, natural disasters, economic conditions, or, as it is often the case, a combination of those, said an FAO spokesperson, adding that countries with low incomes and food shortages may struggle to pay higher prices. Price increases are the most noticeable in countries where the share in disposable income spent on food is the highest. In these cases, the most vulnerable are likely to skip meals, purchase less nutritious foods, or use other coping strategies which will have longer-term effects on their health and well-being. This was Joseph Glauber, a senior research fellow at the International Food Policy Research Institute, saying that before the invasion, prices were already near record highs because of limited global supplies. The IFPRI estimates that Ukraine and Russia accounted for 12% of calories traded in the whole world. Glauber continued and said that the volatility in food prices was being felt everywhere. Countries that were particularly reliant on wheat from Russia and Ukraine may have to switch to the EU, US, Australia, Canada, and Argentina for their wheat supplies. In many North African and Middle Eastern countries, wheat can account for as much as 35% of the total calories consumed, and a majority of the wheat is imported, much from the Black Sea, which has also been a crucial source for sunflower oil. Limiting of exports has meant vegetable oil prices rising by almost a quarter since February. Prices have also risen for palm, soy, and rapeseed oils because of increased demand. Earlier this week, the World Food Programme said that the effect of blocked exports would hit several countries in East Africa, including Kenya, Ethiopia, Somalia, and South Sudan, countries already experiencing severe drought and conflict. The World Food Programme said that the price of local foods had risen a quarter on average compared with last year, but had been as high as 92% in Sudan. It also warned that Eastern African countries are fully dependent on imports for fertilizer, for which Russia and Ukraine are also a key source, and that disruption could impact local production and push food prices even further up. The French President Emmanuel Macron has today accused his far-right challenger Marine Le Pen of lying to voters about her racist platform, as the gap in voter support for the two political rivals narrows ever more. The race appears to be coming down to the two finalists of the 2017 election, while Macron, who entered the race as a clear favourite, appears to have lost ground in recent polls. The far-right candidate Le Pen continues on her upward trend. There was a clear strategy from Le Pen's camp to hide what is brutal in her programme, Macron told Le Parisien in an interview published today. Her fundamentals have not changed. It's a racist programme that aims to divide society and is very brutal. Le Pen told the broadcaster France Info that she was shocked at the accusation, which she rejected, branding the president febrile and aggressive. She said her programme, which includes adding a national priority principle to the French constitution, would not discriminate against people on grounds of their origin as long as they held a French passport. Macron is ahead in the opinion polls, which still see him as the most likely winner, but his re-election is no longer a foregone conclusion. Le Pen's solid comeback in opinion polls has put her victory within the margin of error in some surveys. A poll on BFM TV showed that ahead of the first round on Sunday, Macron had lost a further 2 points to 26% support, and Le Pen had gained 2 points to 25%. The poll showed the same trend of Macron gaining 2%, while Le Pen won by the same amount for the second round. Le Pen has centred her latest bid on purchasing power, softening her image and tapping into the voters' main concern by promising to cut taxes and hike some social benefits, worrying financial markets as she gains momentum in the polls. The rival far-right candidate Eric Zemmour's radical outspoken views have helped Le Pen look more mainstream, and many left-leaning voters have told pollsters that unlike 2017, they would not vote in the second round to keep Le Pen out of power. They won't necessarily vote for Marine Le Pen, but they don't want to vote for Emmanuel Macron, said Jean-David Levy, the deputy director of the polling institute Harris Interactive. Marine Le Pen has never been so capable of winning a presidential election, he said. According to opinion polls, around a third of voters still haven't made up their minds, which analysts say often favours candidates with realistic chances to enter the second round, as undecided voters tend to go for what the French call a useful vote, meaning they vote strategically. Other than Macron and Le Pen, this trend is set to favour the far-left veteran Jean-Luc Mélenchon, who also is on an upward trend and ranks third with around 17% of the forecast votes. Macron expressed regret on Friday for having entered the race late, saying he had had no choice because of the war in Ukraine. In Washington, the White House celebrated the confirmation of Ketanji Brown Jackson as the first black woman to serve on the Supreme Court on Friday in an outdoor event with lawmakers and court members, as coronavirus cases among Washington's political classes rise. Jackson was confirmed by the Senate on Thursday in a milestone for the United States and a victory for President Joe Biden, who made good on a campaign promise to nominate an African-American woman to the post as he seeks to infuse the federal judiciary with a broader range of backgrounds. Black women are a key Democratic constituency and helped propel Biden to the Democratic presidential nomination in 2020 with a win in the South Carolina primary. Biden is suffering in opinion polls thanks in part to high inflation and concerns about the pandemic, and Jackson's confirmation could be a needed jolt to excite black voters and other left-leaning constituents ahead of the November midterm elections, when Democrats risk losing control of one or both of the houses of Congress. The outdoor venue was chosen in part as a nod to COVID-19 safety, White House spokesperson Jen Psaki said, amid a rise in cases of the highly infectious disease in the region and a raft of top Democrats in Biden's inner circle contracting the virus. The House Speaker Nancy Pelosi tested positive on Thursday morning after appearing with Biden at a crowded indoor event on Tuesday and again on Wednesday. The Commerce Department Secretary Gina Raimondo and House Democrat Adam Schiff also got positive test results back in recent days. The White House has emphasized that it is taking measures to protect Biden from catching the disease, while also appearing to prepare for the possibility that he does. The decision to hold the event outside comes after the former President Donald Trump's nomination ceremony for Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett in 2020 became an infamous as a coronavirus super spreader event, striking many top Republicans who had attended. And the public is being invited to have its say on plans to add the number of calories to menus in the out-of-home food sector, including cafes, restaurants, and takeaways. Mandatory calorie labelling is part of action to address obesity, which, with 2/3 of the population living in Scotland recorded as living with overweight or obesity, continues to be one of the biggest and most complex public health challenges. Eating out is commonplace, with almost everyone in Scotland consuming food outside the home. However, nutrition information is not always available. A 12-week consultation, which sets out the broad types of food and drink that would be covered, will seek views on how this could apply to food and hospitality businesses, depending on their size, to public sector institutions such as hospitals and prisons, to pre-packed food such as filled sandwiches, to online takeaway menus, and to children's menus. The consultation will inform whether legislation is introduced to make it a legal requirement for calories to be included on menus, and forms part of the government's wider actions to ensure that Scotland is a place where we eat well and have a healthy weight, including the aim to halve childhood obesity by 2030. Mandating calorie labelling at the point of choice could support the food and hospitality sector to make a key contribution in improving our dietary health. And that was our final item this evening. In making these programmes, Broadcasting Scotland relies on the support of viewers and others who value our distinctive approach to news, current affairs and culture. If you would like to support us, then please consider subscribing or donating to Broadcasting Scotland, and you will find the link to do that on the screen now. We really do need all of the financial assistance that we can gather in order that we can continue to do what we currently do. There are other ways in which you can contribute to our work if you would like to volunteer to work with Broadcasting Scotland, either behind the scenes or in front of the cameras, or in any other way that helps our work and promotes the station, then please visit our website at www.broadcastingscotland.scot and send us a message there. Meantime, Maggie will be here again on Sunday with the next edition of the Full Scottish, so please tune in and join her at 12 noon on Sunday. So that's the way it is at very nearly Scotland at 7:27. I hope that you can join us on Sunday, and I hope that you have a great weekend. Please keep warm and keep well. Bye bye.